Commission. Can I get a roll call, please?
Snyder.
Here.
Wynn. Taylor.
Here.
Wenman.
Here.
Aaron's.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
And Fessler.
Here.
Consider approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's.
Second.
Second by Fessler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So consider approval of the June 6, 2018 minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Snyder.
Second.
Second by Wilson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 5 is a public hearing request by Jajeska LC for the approval of an RPDB site plan for Lot 63 Bridgewater 4th Edition. Does anyone wish to address the commission on this item? We'll open the public hearing. If anybody wishes to.
Hi, my name is Brad Hauser, and we own the property right next door to this subdivision that's being proposed, Woodridge Estates. And I guess the biggest thing that I'm really opposed to, and I've probably only spoke against maybe 2 or 3 developments in my 35, 40 years worth of developing, but I guess I have some struggles that nobody really came and talked to us about the whole development in general, and I just got the site plan this afternoon at about 3 o'clock, so I really haven't had a chance to even go through it. I mean, this is a huge change to the neighborhood. And again, I'm not opposed to development by any means, but you're going to have all the parking for a good chunk of it besides what's underneath the buildings right up against our townhouses, and it's pretty much going to kill them. The history on the land was that there were going to be townhouses that would block the golf course if anybody was around at that time when Alan Poots was trying to do it. And that was a big debate, ended up in a, I don't know, 20-year lawsuit for a lot of reasons, but that was one of the major ones. Homestead Builders, who actually started this subdivision that we have, actually ended up giving it up to the bank because they couldn't produce. They felt it was harming them so much. And it was nothing compared to what this is being proposed right now. And from what I understand, this was kind of set out to maybe have 160 units on it. And now it's got 180 because of the park space that's going to go along with it for the addition to the cemetery space. So it's added even another 20 units. But I don't know if anybody realizes the height of the buildings that are going to be here. And our buildings are one-story ranch walkouts. The building in the back is going to be 5 stories above our building. I mean, it's a pretty dramatic change. And when we changed the subdivision to add the multifamily buildings, we were told at that time that they wanted to keep it so that it would have some townhouses and some stuff on the backside, and then towards the highway side where you'd have the most noise and stuff, you would have the more dense product. And now we're changing it to where we're having the most dense product up against the townhouses. And there's very limited buffer. And again, the retirement center was far enough away from us, it wasn't a big deal, and it's a nice facility. I mean, and I'm sure this is going to be a nice facility too. But they did townhouses next to that, and if they were going to do this kind of building, to me it would have made more sense to put it up where they're building townhouses right now, up against the commercial subdivision, not against the shorter residential. And again, you're not buffering up against the highway or something like that to shelter it and keep a nice buffer, I guess, and keep your densities that way. So again, I really haven't had time to even hardly look at this. I just picked it up about 3 o'clock, and it's a miniature version, so I can't really even read all of it, so I got to get a full-size set. But again, nobody came and even talked to us about it. The only person that talked to us was Sherry Proud, talked to us about the cemetery project, and it was my understanding at that time we'd get a chance to kind of look at how this was all going to lay out before it'd go, because they need some additional accesses across our ground to be able to cross from the cemetery across our private lane, which we've said, we'll support. So that's what I say.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mike Bales with Venture One. And I'd be glad to answer any questions for you. We do have a presentation set up with Susan Bowersox of OPN. Should give you some relative scale of the project. We've been working on this for a long time, hand in hand with the city staff and going through a lot of iterations. And if you recall, when the original PUD-A was approved, it was approved for 10-story buildings. We've actually dropped it down to the current 5 stories above grade, 2 stories below. So the original PUD-A, before we had it revised, was approved for 10 stories. Be happy to answer any questions, and if you're ready, Susan, if you want to go ahead and take them through a little tour.
I think we're going to go through the site plan first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then we'll have
Yeah, 'cause
Susan
Okay.
go.
we have to switch cables, so.
Okay,
we're
no problem.
Gonna go through this first.
Jim, so should we go ahead and start with the discussion then?
Well, you have to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Make
That's all.
sure nobody else wants to talk first.
Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. And we'll consider approval of the RPDB site plan.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's,
Second.
second by Taylor. Okay, discussion? Now Jim can.
Well, what you have before you is a site plan that we've mentioned before. As you can see, we're going to be coming in off of Russell Slade Boulevard to the north of this subdivision. Coming in, have a drive around through it. You can see that 3 buildings that are on there now, buildings number 1 and 2 are actually attached to each other. Building number 3 is a standalone building. As Mike said, they're 5-story buildings. I think you can see the parking that's on there. You can see that as we come in on off of Russell Slade Boulevard, you can see that one drive is wider than the other drive. That's actually the fire access. So we can be sure they can get a large fire truck in there. The turning radiuses have been approved by the fire department. The location of the buildings to fire truck access has been approved by the fire department. So they have access on both the front and back of the building and the ends of the building. As you can see, there's some surface parking. Up in the left-hand top corner up there is a pocket park. I don't know that it's a cemetery. It's labeled as it's supposed to be a pocket park, I believe. It's going to be a park built in consideration, I believe, in cooperation with the city at any rate. I believe that to be true. I don't know that for a fact, but I would assume the city will have some input into it. And then the other hatched area down there by the parking is actually a dog park for the residents that are going to live there. Each building has 2 levels of underground parking. The 3rd building, or the building on the right there, you can see that the lower level will enter from the end of the building. The upper level of parking will enter from the east side of the building. And it's much the same on the 2 buildings that are together. You can see there's 2 drives going into that. There's one right there to the lower level, and there's one right there to the upper level. The levels don't communicate with each other, but they have their own entrance and exits. As I said, it's 5-story buildings. You can see that the pond is behind it. The area that's jutting out over the pond is going to be just an amenity to that. And I'm sure when Susan does her presentation, she'll go over all of that with you, as well as the materials of the building and what the buildings are going to look like, the architecture of the building. I don't know if there's anything else I laid out. Between the underground parking and the surface parking, there's adequate parking. In fact, there's more parking than they need. They're very well on parking. They're very good on parking. So parking is not an issue there at all. So unless you guys have any more questions on that site plan.
Can you confirm where the townhomes are on there that were just talked about?
There's some here,
Yeah,
It's
right there.
that right there?
and then there, see, is this vacant? I think that's vacant still,
Yeah,
right?
That's vacant. Yeah, that's vacant. That's not
Everything
built
from
on.
that curve to the left will be all townhouses. And everything to the right is towards the highway, which is the multifamily.
And just to address another one of Mr. Hauser's concerns, in this development, they are planning some higher density apartments down closer to the interstate. Is that correct?
There's 36 units down on the,
Yes.
close to the interstate, on the south part of the property, yeah.
Okay, I have a question. You know, he did say that we approved those 4-story, or the 10-story, the 4 10-story buildings. I don't think we approved that. It was a proposal at the time, and there was a lot of questions because it was 160 units, and that was making it a lot higher density in that area. It was never actually approved because it was proposed. It wasn't actually part of the subdivision.
I think they were placeholders, I think.
We approved 4 placeholders for tower construction. We did approve the density at 160. That was part of the PUDA approval, was 100. The overall density, and that was part of the overall, the 160 density was part of the overall density that was approved. So, yes, it was originally approved
But
for
there was some
160.
questions about the 10 stories, and it was sort of, it'll come to us
We-
later, and we don't have to, because if we
Yeah.
didn't have a site plan for that, we didn't have it for 10 stories. It was just a proposal that that was what they possibly could put in there.
It had just placeholder footprints for 4 buildings,
So
yeah.
now we're adding another 20 units.
Yeah, taking away 1 building, adding 2 units, and instead of 10 stories, they're 5 stories. Okay.
Something you wanted to?
Ready to switch, or
Huh?
are we ready to switch?
I think so. Okay. As far as I
So
know.
why don't we switch? You're gonna see these buildings, I just wanna show the materials real quick, so you know what you're looking at when I fly around the buildings. But we have a brick outer layer, that's a dark color. Both of these are the same product, they have 2 different aesthetics, so you'll see it's a fiber reinforced cement board, and so you'll see both the white and the wood grain. And then there's some accent with some metal panels that, in some of the smaller areas like the balcony fronts and things like that. But it's a very simple palette in terms of materiality. It's just used in a lot of different ways. So if you have questions, let me know about those.
Susan, you can pass those around to the members if you like. I think that board's small enough to handle.
Sorry, you hit my keyboard and then moved, but sorry. Good. I want to start from the ground. Okay, so I'm in a position on the site where I'm entering, this is Russell Slade Boulevard. So this is the entrance that was mentioned in terms of the fire lane and the main entrance into the site. So I'm going to pan around the model. If you have any questions, please speak up about what you see. I'll apologize in advance. We can go through trees and things like that, so I'll try not to make it too awkward, but sometimes, you know, depending on where you're going, it's easy to do. So this would be as we are entering the site. driveway. There we go. So as we're entering the site, you can see the approach to the buildings. As you see the wood grain and the white, that's the fiber reinforced cement materials, and then you can see the brick is the main material on the outside. So as you come in the main drive, you see the three buildings. They appear above ground as three separate buildings. Even though, like was mentioned, the first two buildings are connected. The first two buildings are connected primarily underground with the parking garage, and then above is actually, there's links that connect the buildings on the first level just so they can get between the buildings. But as you can see, they appear the 5 stories as separate buildings above ground. So as you pull in the main drive, we're going to be here at the main entrance. And we'll pan around. So this is the center of the middle building, and so that's sort of the main entrance to the complex. If you were coming in to meet in the office or to meet the property managers in terms of what in this first center building on the first level is also some amenity spaces, but it's all residential units up above. And so you see that wood grain and the white fiber cement with the accents with the brick exterior. As we proceed, we'll go around. There's the neighbors. There's the dog part that we mentioned on the site plan. We'll go around the building here. Toward the south end of the site, this is the parking garage starts to expose itself as the grade across the site steps away. And this is that entrance into the lower level of the parking. We're planning a lot of site amenities for the complex just due to the water and also the topo of the site. It sort of makes it a unique property in that aspect. So along the west side of the building, you will see we're trying to create areas with landscaping and for residents to have walking paths, able to be outside, some yard type spaces. Get up a little higher so you can see them. And then that connection to the water, as was mentioned on the site plan. So there would be the opportunity on the west side of the building for the community and the residents to enjoy the outdoors. On the west side, this is that parking level. It starts to expose itself. You'll see a little different vocabulary in the architecture on the first floor where those amenity spaces are. We sort of set the exterior wall back a little bit to create an outdoor terrace. This is a community space inside that first level that's amenity space to be shared by the residents, and then space for exercise room, some gaming spaces that all the residents can share and enjoy. These white connectors are that link from only on level 1 that are between all 3 buildings, so in the winter, can access the amenity spaces without having to go outside. Gives you a sense of scale. And then the connection to the water. You see the fire lane on the west side of the buildings.
The biggest thing here, Susan's going around, with this particular site over any other site we've done or any other site that any developer's done in Coralville, when we come forward with different projects, the number one thing we hear about is amenities. You know, what are the amenities for the residents? What are the amenities for the neighbors? What are the amenities? So with this particular project, the whole first level of the middle building is all amenity based. When you come in, it's basically like a hotel lobby, but for the residents. There's areas to gather, there's a couple fireplaces, there's gonna be seating. That's all included in the package, so that when people come in, they have a place to go, not just their unit. Obviously, with the pond and the unique location, not only have we added the fire lane, but we've actually created a bike and a walking, running trail throughout this part of the subdivision, but it also connects up back to the rest of Bridgewater, up through the zero lots, so it'll create a continuous loop. So any of the neighbors in the existing high country, any of the neighbors in Grand Living will be able to utilize, you know, these amenities. While this is, you know, private property, the whole goal between the park and everything else is to make it accessible and open. So it's really given us the opportunity to take a unique site and add things that no one else has. And that's where, you know, we've gone through several iterations of this, and like I said, working hand in hand with the city staff, we've come up with this concept that we feel very good about. So again, if you have any questions, be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you.
Is it open? Can I speak or not?
Yeah, feel free to step up. We can take a question or comment.
A couple things that I noticed on the presentation. The building that's in the middle is really only showing as 4-story, not 5 stories. So at least on the things I picked up at city staff today, that middle building's taller. The building to the south does go down the hill, so it looks like it's still 5 stories there, but you're going to pick up that.
There's 5 stories, right?
Yeah, this is the
Not-
center building right here. There's
Right,
5
but-
stories, but that first level has a lot of the amenity spaces. So it's 4 levels of residential units and 1 level of amenity.
I'm just using the one I picked up today, so again, bear with me if
We're
I'm
going to
wrong,
have to
but
limit the,
This is 6 stories on here,
The
on the one I
back and
picked up.
this is
so-
the time to address us rather than a
Sorry.
two-way conversation. So.
The one that I picked up at the city shows 6 counting that bottom level.
I think that's an old rendition.
Okay, well, that's what I went off of, because
Yeah.
that's what I got today.
Yeah.
Kind of addressed Lynn's comment, you know,
Brad, I
again,
think public hearing is closed, so unless
Yeah.
these people
Now,
want
if
to,
you, I
talk
think
to
we're,
you.
I was going to let you comment on what you saw here, but I hope we want to limit it to just that, if you could please.
okay.
the time to talk to this is during the public hearing to talk to the,
Well, first off, the other thing I want to address is the dog park and the noise that's going to be there against our properties will be one, because that's in there. I guess I was going to say something about the 10-story buildings, and, you know, they were only a 40 by 40 footprint. So this is a lot different footprint than that. So I can go on with more, but since I'm not supposed to, I guess
Okay,
now.
yeah, thank you for. Okay, is there any further discussion or questions?
Well, I have to say, I was opposed to the 10-story buildings, and I'm opposed to adding 20 more units on. We kind of talked about, you know, when the people came in here and said, you know, they didn't like the density of the whole project, and now we're adding another 20 on top of it when we kind of told them we weren't going to do that. And I honestly, I mean, it's a beautiful building, and I think it's great, but I just am opposed to the density of it and how big it is. I'm basically telling the rest of it.
Yeah, I did simple math. If you drop it down to 4, you're at your 150 units, which is closer to the 160 that we kind of talked about originally, which I'm with you, the 10 stories was too much to begin with.
The PUDA was already approved and revised, so the 180 has already been approved. This is
It was
the
160.
160.
It was
We
160 with,
came back last month and the PDA has been approved for 180.
with that, with those 4-story building, or those 4 10-story buildings, we approved that?
No, we didn't approve 4 10-story buildings.
So that's,
This is a PUDB site plan. We've never looked at a PUDB site plan for this site.
so that's
Before
what
now.
we didn't approve 100.
The 180 was just, we just came through council and that was approved. The PDA, we had a revised PDA that we submitted, so I just want to make sure we're not confusing the two. This is the PUD site plan, but we had a revised PUDA that we brought back through.
That's true. That's
And-
true.
and
They did.
we were approved for 180 units.
That's true. We have looked at,
That was in
right,
June.
that was in June.
Well,
We
am I
did.
supposed to get a notice on that?
We did look,
I wasn't here in June, so I guess I missed that one.
yeah, you did, because we did approve, not the B site plan, not the buildings and everything, but we did approve the PUDA with the change in density.
I think the notices went out with the A because we had a lot of public input and comments at that time, so.
Correct. There were several neighbors here,
Yeah.
and our specific request was to go from 160 to 180, and that's what was approved by P&Z and by council in June.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? If not, we'll vote on approval of the RPDB site plan. Would you like to do a roll call? Let's do a roll call vote, Dee.
Yes.
Snyder.
No,
Taylor.
Yes.
Fessler.
No.
Aaron's.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Winman.
Yes. Motion is approved 3-2.
4 to 2.
4 to 2.
4 to 2.
Yeah, 4.
Okay, item 6 is a public hearing from KRE LLC and build a suit for the approval of rezoning from C2 to CPD2 and a CPDB site plan for Lot 2 Jacobs Quick Creek 6 additions. Anyone wish to speak to the commission on this item?
We need to get it pulled up there, Ron.
That's the right one, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, Ron. We can do the public hearing.
Okay, does anyone wish to address the commission on this item?
Thank you.
Item 6. Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. We'll consider approval of the rezoning.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's,
Second.
second by Fessler. Discussion, Jim, what?
What we're looking at here for rezoning is the area that's shaded in gray there that Scott has circled is the area we're looking at to rezone from C2 to CPUD2. The little corner of that up there, of course, is where Popeye's Chicken is located, which will remain C2 zoning. West of Popeye's right now, there is a building under construction. It's like a 3-unit commercial building under construction. The lower portion of this lot, or the L shape of that lot, which is still lot number 2, Popeyes is 1, this is 2. They're proposing another building, much the same as what they're building there now. But it's 2 buildings on 1 lot, which forces them into a planned unit development zoning classification of a CPUD2. So the fact that they're putting the 2 buildings on the 1 lot is the reason for the rezoning from C2 to CPUD2. Still commercial use, it's just a planned unit development.
Okay, any questions or discussion on the rezoning?
We have a site plan we can look at too.
Okay, let's do the rezoning first. There's no further question or discussion on rezoning. We'll vote on the rezoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed, all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the CPDB site plan.
There somewhere.
So moved.
Moved by Fessler,
second.
second by Snyder. And
Same
Jim?
PDF.
Look way over, Scott, way over in the end where the two buildings are shown. There you go, you got it. Okay, so the building in red is the building that they're proposing to put on this lot. Now, you remember when we did this lot originally, it was, when Popeyes went up there, we're not allowing several accesses out onto Coral Ridge Avenue. So we created that one common access point there for both lots 1 and 2 that goes up and around and through the site to access Popeyes, the second building, and then go out to the west. And eventually Acorn Drive is there in the property that goes further on west. It will extend on west. So we have that shared access easement in there, which will give us not only fire department access, but customer access and pedestrian access to all 3 buildings. So what we're doing here is adding the 3rd building down here. We're adding the additional parking off to the west of this building, and there's some to the south as well, and around the building. So we still have adequate parking there for all 3 uses. There is a possibility that there will be a drive-through on maybe 1 or 2 of the buildings, but that'll take a conditional use permit because we're not seeing the drive-through now. They are designing the driveways in case they would want to have a drive in there, so they have bypass lanes and what have you. But at this point in time, we're just changing this and to the rezoning, and then we're approving or asking for approval of this site plan. And the buildings, I think we have pictures of the buildings up there, look pretty much the same as this building. Will look pretty much the same as the other building. This is this building. It's kind of divided into 3 storefronts like that, but they're kind of leaning toward just one user. And I mentioned the parking was adequate, but what will happen is when they start to put tenants in these 2 buildings, the kind of tenant they put in there and the size of the tenant they put in there is going to be driven by the amount of parking they can furnish. So we don't know of any potential users at this point in time, but they will be limited. The types of businesses will be limited as to how much parking that we can serve each one.
And staff is okay with the way the traffic will flow through there?
The traffic will flow through like we originally planned for lot number 1, yeah. It's driven by the fact that we're just not going to give that many access points.
Okay, any further discussion or questions on the site plan? Not, we'll vote on approval of the CPDB site plan. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries all ayes. Item 7 is a public hearing request by Integrated DNA Technologies for the approval of IPDB site plan of 1710 Commerce Park. Does anyone wish to speak to the commission on this item? Item 7. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and consider approval of the IPDB site plan.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's,
Second.
second by Wilson. Any discussion? Jim?
Once again, earlier this year, we had rezoned this property from straight I zoning to an IPUD because IDNA is looking toward the future and looking toward expansion of their operation. So what we did is they had 2 lots, the lot that IDNA sits on, and they had another lot down in the corner that they had split off in the past, maybe to sell as a commercial lot. And it was rezoned to commercial at that time, but now we've combined them all under one IPUD, and this is that's the lot that they had split off that we have joined with the rest of the properties. But, so they aren't quite ready to pull the trigger on building another building yet, or quite decided how they may want to do their expansion. But they are in bad need of parking for their employees. So the site where you see the darker gray is all going to be just new parking for their employees. And then down in the 3 little green strips going up off of it are just waterways, and then there's a bioswale down there to take care of the stormwater and the runoff of the property. But for now, they are adding this parking lot, which in the future, they may have to put a building on that site, in which case they have to put up a parking structure. But next to the building, you can see the red or the reddish shade there. Those are 3 new standing tanks adjoining the 3 existing tanks, and then they're going to put a new control building, build a new control building in there. So that's all part of this PUD site plan as well. So it's a growing company that, as it grows, parking becomes a problem, so they're adding the parking now. This kind of shows how they're going to screen, or how they've already actually screened tanks in there. They're above-ground tanks, or silos, or tanks, whatever you want to, however you want to call them, and their control area for that. It's all electronically controlled gates. It's all heavy fence. It does a good job of masking their use in there. And there's no access to any of this stuff other than employees or delivery people.
Okay, any questions or further discussion on the IPDB site plan? If not, we will vote. All in favor of approval of the site plan, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries all ayes. Item 8 is a public hearing request by James Montanaro for the approval of and rezoning from I-2 to CPD2 and CPDB site plan of 516 Second Street. Does anyone wish to address the commission on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and consider approval of the rezoning.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's.
Second.
Second by Fessler. Discussion, Jim?
Actually, this is a remnant of some old industrial rezoning we've had along Second Street for quite some time. There's still a little bit of it left, like the land, the Iowa Lodge is still zoned as an I-2. But this is a good opportunity to rezone this property to CPUD2 and take the grandfathering clause off of the restaurant use that's in there now and make it a totally legal use under the CPUD or commercial zoning, because that's a commercial use. And so we're rezoning this not only to change that use, but to actually add another building on this lot as well. So this is just a rezoning exhibit showing the existing building and where it sits, and the rest of the lot. It's all going to be rezoned from I-2 to CPUD2 to put another building on this site and to make the use compatible with the zoning.
What's left as industrial then along there? You know?
Pardon me?
What's left as industrial, zoned industrial along there? Is the car dealer and all that still industrial?
I believe the car dealer still is, and Iowa Lodge still is. Chances are the AT&T building still is I-2 as well. But little by little, it's being rezoned to commercial as the uses change and new uses come in there.
Any further discussion of the rezoning? We'll move to vote on the approval of the rezoning. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion, the rezoning carries all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the CPDB site plan.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's,
Second.
second by Fessler.
Listen.
Okay, Jim, anything different on the site plan here?
Yeah, it's a lot different than it was. You can see the existing building there, and then down in the left-hand corner, you can see the hatched area. That is it's a new 10,000 square building that's going to be a brewery, going to brew beer in there, which is also allowed in a commercial zoning district, and it limits the amount of beer that you can brew in a day's time or a year's time. It's 650 gallons a day you can brew, which is quite a bit of beer. And you can see that through this site plan and the placement of this building on this lot, that the parking lot that was running north and south in there is now running to the east and west. So they've reconfigured all of the parking to accommodate what they've lost with the building. There is adequate parking there for the 2 uses. Was always quite a bit more adequate parking there than they needed just for the restaurant itself. But as you noted, they took part of the restaurant out, and there's a small brew pub area in that restaurant. So the employees that are going to run that or manage that one are the same ones that are going to be brewing the beer down here. So they're not really adding any employees, or they're not adding parking because of the use. But they have reconfigured the parking nonetheless to make it more convenient and to also give us fire access in and around this building so that we can get fire access to this building as well. So they still have adequate and excess parking for the business that's already there, or the restaurant that's already there, and they'll have adequate parking for this building as well. They'll have to do, that's just kind of what the brewery will look like inside. These are outside, and actually I set the material board right down there now. It's a little bit different than, and these are too, these are not the most, the building looks the same. If you're looking at the building here from the west, you will see the brewery here. Now, all of this building is that dark wooden cement board material you're seeing down there on that board. The yellow is that yellow metal. It's just an access metal. And the windows are that yellow opaque style glass that are going to be in the windows. There was quite a bit of metal on the back of this building, on the ends of the building. That's all gone now. The only building that'll be on here now will be accent metal. This is the, I can't read that far, east elevation of the building.
North.
No, I'm sorry, north elevation of the building. Is that right?
Yes.
North elevation, yes. The Reunion Juice Factory sign on there was a lot larger than we allow for signage on the side of a building, so that's been reduced down to fit the sign ordinance, but it's the same sign. It's just been reduced in size. So this is the north of the building, then these are the other two. This would be the south of the building and the east elevation of the building. And once again, I said there's no metal on it. It's all that darker cement material that's on there. That's all I have, unless you have more questions.
Any further discussion of the site plan? Okay, we'll vote on approval of the site plan. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries all ayes. Item 9 is the public hearing request by David Hill and Watts Group for the approval of and rezoning from R1 to RPD 2 to preliminary plat, final plat, and an RPDB site plan of Woodland Trails. Does anyone wish to speak to the commission on this item?
Good evening, I'm Dwayne Musser with the Watts Group. I'll kind of talk about all three applications at once. We're under contract to buy this remnant parcel here that Scott's pointing out, and plat it into one lot, dedicate some right of way to the city, create a new utility easement, and then as part of the PUD site plan, we're proposing 6 townhouses, 2 threeplexes. If you're familiar with our current townhouse project on East Grant View, off of Oakdale Boulevard, we're looking at very similar buildings. We mirrored them to follow the grades, and because of this lot is larger and deeper, we have the opportunity to put screened-in porches on the back of them. We're very excited about the location in the lot with the mature trees and the bike trail. We believe it's a straightforward application. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Might tell them where it's located.
Excuse me?
Tell them where the lot's located.
This lot is right there. Scott's pointing out it's right south of the new Unitarian Church, south of Oakdale Boulevard, off of Oakdale Road. We're proposing threeplexes, but that's very similar to the duplexes and threeplexes and fourplexes. A lot of the townhouse developments that you have in that area with Pat Zimmerman's next door and Oak Springs, and the couple that Terry Lavery has done, Terra Woods and Terra Ridge, over the years.
Do you want me to go through these, Jim, or wait for the rezoning to?
Either way. You want to act on the rezoning or hear the second?
Let's just do it all, as long as we got it up.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, Dwayne, you can.
Nope.
I'm going to talk through this as we go.
No, again, pretty straightforward preliminary plat. We've got a small outbuilding remove. We've got a well to remove. All the utilities, city and private utilities, are all existing. There's a site plan. There's the threeplexes that I was talking about. We've mirrored them. If you're familiar with the fourplexes, again, that we're currently building, a little information on those. We had them all sold before we could even get them finished, so it's been very successful. We think this is even a better location as far as the wooded lot and on that kind of that quiet street over there. There's the front of them. That, again, that shows the fourplex. We'll be dropping one of those buildings and kind of mirroring them because of the grade so we can step them down the hill. The backs, again, this lot will give us the opportunity to have screened-in porches that we think are going to be wonderful into that wooded lot. Then the city bike trail is down there in the bottom also. Be very similar materials on the outside. Pretty standard landscaping plan there Scott had. We're going to do some extra evergreen trees. The residents, the building to the south is close, so we're going to beef up our landscaping there. We should be able to get all walkout basements on these, and everything else is really straightforward. At filling in the sidewalk there, public sidewalk along the east side of Oakdale Road.
So that'll fill the gap across here.
Yep.
Sidewalk across this lot, it was when we reconstructed and annexed this property, excuse me, we annexed the property and reconstructed Oakdale Road back in, I can't remember what year it is, maybe 2005. It was written into the agreement that they would not have to put sidewalk across this corner lot until it redeveloped.
Okay. Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Okay, we will close the public hearing and consider approval of the preliminary plat.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's.
Second.
Second by Snyder. Jim, anything else you want to add to that?
No, that's pretty thorough.
Yeah. Any
Did we-
questions?
Did you do the rezoning?
No, I'm going in order here.
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion or questions on the preliminary plat? Okay, we'll call for a vote on the preliminary plat. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion for preliminary plats, all approved, all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the final plat.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Wilson, second by Snyder. Anything different here, Jim?
No.
Okay, any further question or discussions on the final plat? Now we'll vote to, all in favor of the approval of final plat, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Final plat's approved, all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the rezoning.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron's,
Second.
second by Fessler. Any discussion on the rezoning? Okay. All in favor of the approval of rezoning, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the rezoning is approved, all ayes. Now we'll consider approval of the RPDB site plan.
So moved.
Moved by Fessler,
Second.
second by Snyder. Any discussion on the approval of the site plan? Okay, vote to approve the site plan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any site plans approved, all ayes. Okay, that's everything on this month's agenda. Anything for next month yet, Jim?
One thing,
Okay, then we'll consider a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Moved by Aaron, Snyder.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.